Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Hope you're all doing well. I have with me today a fellow YouTuber. You may have seen him already on the channel a few weeks ago when we made a climb up Terrace Hill, which is in Leicestershire. It's one of Simon Warren's top 100 climbs here in the UK. And this week's guest is Paul Green. How are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, much better than the weather today.
Can we start by asking you to introduce yourself and what you do on your channel?
Yeah, so my name is Paul Green, and I started my channel about 6 months ago during the first lockdown. Ironically, early part of the first lockdown. The original intention was really just to sort of document lockdown, but quite quickly I sort of got really into the whole process. So now I'm doing 2 videos a week. I'm gradually starting to introduce more people, and I'm starting to do some interviews. And the videos are a little bit more about cycling subjects rather than just a vlog about where I've ridden that day.
So Paul, how did you first get into cycling?
Well, like everybody, like I rode as a teenager, and I had a rally chopper, was my first bike. And then I moved on to a racer, as they were called in those days. But then, you know, once I was like 16, 17, I got interested in the scooters. So I had a scooter and got rid of all the bikes and what have you. And in the mid 80s, I got really into mountain biking. I think it was quite early as mountain bikes go. And I think I had a sticker on my frame from the mountain bike club from 1987, which I think was quite early. And I wasn't really serious about it. You know, I wouldn't say I was a serious mountain biker. I would ride it 10 miles or so in the summer. That would be about it, really. We had a few muddy rides in the winter. It just came out on sort of high days and holidays, really, and summer days. But in 2010, I had some mental health issues, really, and some illness issues, health issues. And part of it, of recovering from that, was getting exercise, getting outdoors air, and that was when I started to cycle seriously. And I think it's probably a way that quite a few people have got into it. You know, they started it as a way of getting healthy, getting fitter, losing a bit of weight, and I was trying to get all of those in one go, really.
So, what would you say is your sort of favourite part of going out on a bike? Then, what does it for you?
I think I definitely need the outside air, you know, particularly if you're working indoors and you spend a lot of time indoors. I really value just getting out. And I think I definitely struggle physically. If I've not been out on the bike, I struggle physically and mentally because I just want that fresh air and that bit of freedom to go out and ride a bike and get exercise. I think you feel so much better when you've ridden your bike. You know, I mean, I think I've seen a T-shirt. You know, there's no bad days on a bike. You know, and funny enough, I was saying to somebody last night. Yesterday was grim. You know, I did 50 miles in a 25-mile-an-hour wind. Got absolutely soaked. Did 50 miles in it. It was grim, but actually, it was what they call like type 2 fun.
Yeah,
it's not great. It's not great fun at the time, but you just feel so much better afterwards. Once you got dry and warm, you feel much better for having done it. Two things I think as well is that if you want to forget about whatever is going on in the world, going out and riding a bike is great, you know. And sometimes if you go out and push yourself physically, or you take a mountain bike around a trail centre, you can't be thinking about whatever is on your mind because you'll wrap yourself around a tree. But equally, sometimes if you want to actually think about a problem, whether it's a life problem or, you know, a business problem or whatever, I found going out on a road bike, doing a 40, 50 mile an hour ride, 50 miles ride, not mile an hour, 40 or 50 miles ride, allows you to sort of just think about whatever it is that you're struggling with. And by the time you got to the end of the ride, you've probably solved the problem. And so cycling is perfect for that, you know, at both ends of that spectrum. It's a great thing to do.
So when you've been out riding your bike, have you, over the years, have you ever bonked?
No, I never have actually. No,
Oh.
I think
Okay.
no. I've got really tired, but I've never been picked up off a ride or anything like that. And I've got tired. I've got to the point where I just got so tired. I think one time I went out with a tailwind behind me on a mountain bike. Just kept going and going, thinking I was feeling super fit that day. And once I turned, I I've realised just that actually there was quite a tailwind, and I had about 20 miles of gradual uphill, and I was just physically exhausted by the end of it. But I've never had that sort of mad, crazy desire to stuff food or sugar into my face to keep me going. So I don't know if it's unusual or whatever, but I've just never really struggled with it.
So you never found yourself collapsing by the roadside then?
No. Maybe I've not pushed myself hard enough.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it, Paul. So you currently live in Grantham in South Lincolnshire. Yeah. So where would you normally ride?
Well, I tend to go in phases, and I do ride quite a lot around the Vale of Beaver.
Yeah, not far away.
No, I mean 15 to 20 minutes ride, and I'm around Beaver Castle, which is a lovely area to ride. So if I want to ride hills, I've got that, sort of 15 to 20 minutes to the west of me. But equally, if I go to the east, then I've got the flatlands, the fenlands going, towards Sleaford and beyond. So depending what I want to do, I can sort of go both ways. If I want to ride a little bit north, then I've got a bit of a combination. I've got flat, and then I've got hills around Lincoln, etc. And if I go south, I've got rolling hills, and eventually I'm going to end up at Oakham at Rutland Water or somewhere like that. So in the four directions, I feel quite lucky that I've got all of those around me. So it does depend on how the mood takes me, really.
You're not afraid to ditch the tarmac every now and again and head onto the gravel?
No.
Which style of riding do you prefer?
Again, I'm lucky with the gravel bike to do both. If I had to pick one, it would be off-road, actually, because I'm a bit of an explorer at heart. So if I only had one thing I could do, it would be off-road, in that I love exploring. I love to see a track, go down a track, see what I find. It's a little bit more challenging as well. You're always physically on the go when you're off-road. You don't have such long periods where you're not physically sort of doing that much. You can be on a road bike and go down one of the long hills, like some of the long hills like Harvey Hill in the Vale of Beaver, and you've got 3 or 4 minutes and you don't need to touch the pedals. You can just sit there. But even if you were going downhill off-road, you're still physically doing stuff. You've got to hang on and you're bouncing around. So if I had to pick one style, it probably would be off-road, but I do like to mix the two up.
Something I've learned from watching your channel when we were back in October is you're a big fan of coffee. So what makes the perfect coffee for?
Well, I never drank coffee at all, to be honest, until I was in my sort of early 30s, and then I drank it for a while, and then I sort of discovered independent coffee shops, and it opened up like a whole new world, and I got gradually more and more into it, and I started to learn a little bit more. Then I got an invite to go to the London Coffee Festival, an email-free invite, and I thought, I'll go. I've got a free ticket, I'll go. And then that opened up a whole world, and I gradually got more and more into it, and it became this sort of standing joke. We can only go to a coffee shop that Paul likes when we're on the ride. We can't go to one that serves Nescafe. And one of the worst I ever had, we went to a cafe and asked for a cappuccino, and I could see the girl out back, and she got a spoon and a big jar of Nescafe cappuccino powder. And I thought, well, this is wrong. So it became a bit of a standing joke about me opening a coffee shop. And eventually I had a bit of a midlife crisis and opened a cycle cafe. So
can you tell us more about the cycling cafe then?
Well, I opened that 2.5 almost 3 years. Well, 3 years ago, actually. 3 years next weekend, actually. But I sold it at the beginning of the year. Basically, we'd created a bit of a monster, and in a very romantic way, I wanted to serve coffee and cake to my friends that were on the bikes. And as I say, we were really, really popular. And it actually took 8 weeks from opening to be number 1 on TripAdvisor for Nottinghamshire. And then it just sort of went on, and we stayed at number 1 for about 2.5 years, and it's still there now actually, but it just took over my whole life, and we'd done as much as I could do with that business, and we needed to expand the kitchen quite a lot to be able to go any further. So we'd taken it as far as we could. So I decided to take the opportunity and go and do something else. But the plus point, it means I actually get to ride my bike on a weekend now with my friends, and go to other coffee shops. I can go to other coffee shops and pick fault. So yeah.
So if we come back to Terrace Hill, which we rode together in October, I think it was. So how many times have you been up that now? And when we last spoke, you also mentioned a 13 Hills route around there somewhere.
Yeah, I sent you a link to the 13 Hills route, and that's something that my local club, Witham Wheelers, they'd sort of come up with. And I think it's about 65 miles, and it does all of the big hills at Beaver. Terrace Hill, I wouldn't say I've gone up it a lot. I'm not a massive fan of hills, but I've gone up it enough times. And I think it is quite challenging. It's quite long, and somebody said, I can't remember who it was now, but when you see it from the start, there's this like look of impending doom as it was it you that said that? And it comes up.
Mentioned it.
A long way. Yeah, you see it from a long way away, and then you think you're almost up it, and then it flattens, and then it kicks again. And it's a tricky one to do. And ironically, my fastest time up it was on my winter bike. I couldn't get close to it on my summer bike. So my summer bike's a Planet X Pro Carbon, so it's lightweight, 11-speed Ultegra. My winter bike is a Specialized Alley, so relatively heavy, and it's got 8-speed Shimano Claris on it, I think. But yeah, I think somehow I just got in a real rhythm on that, and I could get up it faster than I could on the Planet X, which I think is the gearing. But yeah, it's quite a challenging one to do.
Can you talk a bit more about why you started the channel up?
Yeah, well, I say originally it was basically just to sort of document this lockdown period, at the start of it. So the first 3 or 4 videos were about that. I had been thinking about doing a vlog for quite a while, particularly having a coffee shop, because obviously you get a lot of people in and out. So you've got a sort of cast of thousands that you could involve. So I quite like the idea of doing that, but within the coffee shop, I never had time. So once I'd done a few videos and got more used to it, and certainly my plans for the future have changed a little, in that I would like to get it to 1,000 subscribers to get it where it's monetized. Not so much for, we're not going to be millionaires out of getting a few. We might be monetizing, get a few quid here and there, but buy some new mudguards. But I quite like the idea. Like in my last vlog, I spoke about mental health, for example. In that, I'd like to use it as a vehicle to raise some money for a charity of that kind of ilk, but also to keep myself in some cycling equipment, etc. And also, I've got an idea about it generating some money for things like product reviews that I can then raffle off to subscribers, so things like that. I would like whatever is made on the channel, I think I would like to go back into the channel in one way or another, one day. But I'm really enjoying the process at the moment and trying to keep the videos telling a story, and it's starting to involve a few more people, like yourself, and if you've got a few people that keep popping up, you've got a few more characters on the videos, it makes them more interesting. It's not just me riding around the same roads all the time, if there's a few more people, and we're getting a bit last weekend we went to Nottingham and did a city ride, and that was really good fun, and I ended up with so much footage. I only used half of it, obviously now with the lockdown that's going to be a bit more difficult to go back, but I quite like the idea of going exploring, around a city you don't really know, and showing off its cycling infrastructure, as well as maybe some of its history and some of its interesting features. It is easy to forget that actually cycling doesn't have to be doing long distances, through rural country roads. Certainly I had my eyes open riding along the banks of the River Trent, just for example. And one of the plus points of the COVID times we're in is that within that video, there's some footage of us riding through the city centre, and there's no cars. It was a Sunday morning, there's virtually no cars. So one of the ironic things is you can actually ride around the city now relatively safely with very little traffic.
So you've started your channel then, what would you say, what kind of things have you learnt along the way since day one?
I've learned how to speak more confidently to the camera, and I've learned that when you make a bit of a mess, it's actually got increasingly easier to edit it out. And there's quite a few little editing tricks that I've sort of learned along the way. But I think the most important thing is just to learn to make a bit of a story with the video. And once you've got a certain level of confidence just in talking to the camera, it's not that unusual, and just chat away to it. And I've really enjoyed having a little community of people that it's started to build now, of, you know, different people that are commenting on the videos or sending me an email or messaging saying that, you know, they're adding something to what I may have spoken about. And I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. And I do like the storytelling part of it, and finding something that's a little bit more unusual to talk about.
It's great to put the videos out there and build a little bit of a community. I find it quite rewarding to see people find some inspiration in the you know, what you're putting out there. You know, like I do. It can be anything really. What inspires people to get out there into the countryside and just ride a bike.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people are seeing there's different things that we can do on bikes. You know, as I say, you love your long distances, and I quite like suddenly stopping, going down a track and seeing what's there. You know, you find all sorts.
Look back at your adventures, perhaps before you started the channel, places you've been and things like that. What would you say your favourite moment or place has been? And
there's probably two really. The first one, which would be the doing the coast to coast. You know, I did it with six of us. We raised about £5,000 for a cancer charity, and it was absolutely torrential rain the whole day, and the Lake District was flooded. And we went through Keswick, and water was like 2 foot deep. It was crazy. It was monumental rain, and that was on day one of our challenge, you know. So we had everything like that, and then we had a puncture. We came down. I forget the name of the hill, but we came down the hill to find where's we had a truck supporting, the band supporting us. Where is it? And it was in a ditch. So we had to ride back up the hill to actually go and help them get it out. By the time we'd got almost to the top, a tractor arrived. So it was just an adventure, and everything happened, you know, as these things often do. One of the guys lost his hydraulic brakes. He had no brake. We couldn't fix the brakes. A guy broke some spokes. It was just, everything happened on that kind of adventure. So I definitely always remember that. It was quite special getting to the end. I remember us all holding our bikes above our heads, and it was quite emotional, really, when we got to the end. And probably the second one has to be probably RideLondon, really. You know, I did RideLondon. It was the year that there wasn't rain, which was good, but there was loads of accidents. And I stood for 2.5 hours in the country lanes in Surrey because there was an air ambulance we're waiting for, and I was in probably one of the last groups that completed the whole thing. We were told we're going to get diverted on a shortened route. So myself and another guy, we had a quick chat, and we said, well, look, it's going to be much shorter now. We're missing out probably about 30 miles, so let's really go for it. So for two of us, we just rode in a little bit of a pairing and kept swapping and changing, and absolutely hammered. We were told we were missing out Box Hill, and all of a sudden we're at Box Hill because we'd made up quite a bit of time, and they let us up here. So now it's, oh my God, we were doing a whole route. and it was just brilliant, you know. In different times, I was raising money there for Alzheimer's, and I was wearing an Alzheimer's cycling shirt. And it's such a brilliant event to do because you get so much support from the crowd. And I always remember I was going through one of the villages, and a really old man, he must have been in his 90s, hanging onto his walking stick at the side of the road for support, really. And he was shouting something as I rode through. I wasn't sure what it was, so I stopped. And he said, he sort of said to me, and he had a tear rolling down his eyes, down his cheek. And he said, oh, you're all heroes, you're all heroes. And he said something else that I couldn't understand about Alzheimer's. And it certainly made me think, you know, even more so that you touch somebody in such a way presume, I don't know if his wife had, or maybe had passed away with it. It was obviously sensitive to him. And that kind of made my day in a funny kind of way, that I was raising money for that cause. And then when you get to the end, there's all these people cheering and they're shouting by your shirt, you know, they're shouting, "Oh, go Alzheimer's," or go British Heart Foundation, or whatever charity it was. And there's so much support. And again, you can't help but be quite emotional doing an event like that.
Yeah. So coming back to your channel, what you got planned? What are you coming up over the next few weeks?
Well, I really enjoyed when we met up. You're the first person I'd sort of ridden along with and done an interview with, you know, and I felt that it went really well, and I felt that it was a good thing to do. So yeah. I've done another one subsequently. You know, I've met up with Nigel Ayers, and I've done one with him as another YouTuber, and I met with a local lady. She's not massively well known, but Mary Contereri, with her recumbent tricycle.
Is this her real name?
It's not a real name. You guys say Mary Contrary, not a real name, but no, she's. I think she's a little celebrity locally. She carries her dog in the trailer.
Oh, right.
And I was quite fussy actually, because somebody met her last weekend. Somebody saw her in the Vale of Beaver and asked if she was Mary from Paul's videos. So I think she's probably going to start to take little signed photographs of herself out with her now for when that happens again. But no, what I want to do is have maybe a monthly ride where I'll meet somebody from the cycling or from the YouTube community and actually do a ride or an interview, whether it's sitting down or whether it's along the ride. And I've got a few people in mind for that, and a couple of already in the pipeline. I think the next one could well be Mark, who owns Cafe Ale. I think you've been there a few times now. Yeah, and he's a keen cyclist, and obviously is known to a lot of cyclists because he opened his coffee shop, you know, shortly after I'd opened mine. So it'd be interesting to do a ride with Mark. But I know I've got a few other people from the YouTube community in mind to ride with too. So that'll be like a monthly thing. But other than that, I just want to start to involve a few more people as we can, according to whatever the rules are, yes. And hopefully just keep the videos interesting and keep doing some different things. And so it's not just going for a ride and looking at the similar routes, or oh, it's raining now, oh, it's windy, oh, I've done 30 miles, oh, I've done 50 miles. You know, I want to make them hopefully more interesting.
Oh, it's brilliant to speak to you, Paul, and have you on the show. I've got one more question before you go.
Go on then.
The question I've been asking everybody on this show, and it's simply, is how many bikes do you own?
Oh, well, I'm just down one. I've sold one this week. Yeah, I've sold the Specialized LA.
I've also got a leaderboard going as well, so there's two people on the table already. It'd be interesting to see how many bikes you've got.
Right. Well, that's gone. So I've got my Trek Checkpoint, I've got my Planet X summer bike, I've got a Doors single speed bike, and I've got my Bike Polo bike. So I'm currently on 4. So I was 5, but now I'm on 4.
Okay, well, you've now you sold your bike. You are joint second.
Am I? Oh, no.
Yes.
No. I've got a skateboard as well. I've got 2 skateboards. 2 skateboards.
That's got too many wheels.
2 skateboard and 1 Lambretta.
Well, like I say, it's fantastic to talk to you, Paul, and have you on the show, and look forward to watching your channel in the future. So
okay, thanks for the invite to talk to you, and it's been a pleasure.
Hope you enjoyed watching the interview between me and Paul today, and I shall see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.